What's up? Welcome back to the Cyrus King Show. Your host Cyrus King. It's funny. It's been a few things that's happened since I made the last video. I've been just been kind of busy, so I haven't had time to make videos for YouTube. Uh, Obviously, Donald Trump got elected, right? When it happened, this country is a very strange place. So, and I don't, because spiritual people tend to kind of have a little bit of ties to conspiracy folks. I'm gonna say that conspiracy folks probably wanted, not even probably, conspiracy folks definitely wanted Donald Trump to win. So I'm gonna say spiritual folks probably were leaning towards Donald Trump as well because they kind of blur with conspiracy. And the CEO of a healthcare company got gunned down in New York, I think about 2 days ago. And I bring up Donald Trump because you can see, anyone with eyes can see that, because most people don't have eyes, right? So when we go into Donald Trump, I'm going to talk about the CEO, I'm really talking about class warfare about to start and what you should do about it. And when Trump won, you're in the left, you could say, oh yeah, it's because of racism and, whatever ism you want to say, right? And, in 2016, I think Trump ran more of a populist campaign, like, pretending to be for the people. I feel in 2024, he kind of did that, but he had a lot of billionaires like Elon Musk with him, right? So his campaign in 2024 is a little different. But for me, what I'm seeing is that there's major class warfare about to be. It's been class warfare for a while, but usually the poor and working class are just in space and shit, right? And now I'm starting to see like, oh, we're about to start to get some, it's about to be a little warfare going on here. And I always used to say, and I still do, that there's kind of like three ways of power, right? The business and the finance, the occult, and the underworld, which is kind of tied into, I guess you could say, finances as well. But I usually put the underworld as its own entity. And when the average person hears this, they say, well, what's the most successful to them? And I'm going to say the occult, right? Or spirituality. And I like to say the occult over spirituality because I feel that when you say spirituality, it can include a lot of fluff shit. And, I've tried to get people to kind of take spirituality serious. And, some do. I'm not gonna lie, I've met some cool people on YouTube. But most don't. And I can't control that. Most people think they have answers. So what I'm gonna say is this. With the emerging class warfare going on, I do feel that it's very important for people to do two things spiritually. Because I think before, a lot of people were into a thirst of knowledge. I will say three things when it came to spiritual people before. A thirst for knowledge, answer to who runs the world, and a type of, I guess you could say, I could say enlightenment is kind of connected to thirst for knowledge. But maybe, instead of saying enlightenment, some kind of unraveling of some kind of power, right? A lot of people have dreams of having superpowers or some crazy shit like that, right? So spirituality was kind of based on those three things. So that's why when you get somebody like myself who's trying to get into the cult and be serious, most of the times those three types of people are not going to be serious about that. But what I would say would be this: I can't tell you what to get serious about when it comes to that type of stuff. But I would say, with the emerging class warfare going on, it's probably good to get serious about these two areas: your health and spiritual defense. So meaning, I don't really think people, because to do offense, to operate offensively in the spiritual world, it's not easy, right? It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of work, right? It takes a lot of understanding the real knowledge, right? A lot of people are not into real knowledge; they're into fast food, and I'm just keeping it 100. So it's kind of hard for me to say, well, you should probably take that type of stuff serious because most people are not serious about that. But I think spiritual defense is something which is much easier to attain, in my opinion. And when it's much easier to attain, I think it's also one of those things where people sometimes, if they really pay attention and be honest with themselves, they'll kind of realize that you should be on that, because when I look at those, when I say those three things, those three levels of power, right? Legitimately, those three levels of power, you're only gonna, you could figure, I mean, yeah, financially, I do think that people should strive to be financially independent. There's some truth to that. And financially independent could be, I don't even like saying their own business anymore, but having investments that work. Or, you could work with your hands and have, and you can still make money from that, and you can just, it will still be tied into investments though. I do think investments is probably the way to go over the business. If you're gonna do the business, do it with aims of making it, with building it up and then selling it. But I digress, right? You can do that, and I think it's important. But out of those three, the underworld, you can forget that. Finance, the occult. The occult is the most accessible. And I would say, when I say the occult, it's also not, because I think people who are spiritual really get into space cadet stuff and say, oh, I don't have to worry about the world. No, I'm telling you, it's probably important if you could try to get financially independent, you can. But without question, in order to protect yourself out of those three, the occult is the one that anyone can do. The reason why people can't, the reason why people think they can't do it is because they cling on to beliefs that don't. But the occult is like science, right? In a way, it's not about what you want; it's about what is, right? And when I say cling on to beliefs, I'm not even talking about Christianity. I've said this before. I'd rather a person be Christian than some of this new age garbage I see out here, right? I actually rather a person be Christian than even Hotep. I'm just being honest. That's just how I feel. So I'm not attacking Christianity, but I'm coming from the angle of, I think spiritual defense has to be upgraded, and health too, because the health stuff has got intertwined with spirituality, but people have made a mockery of it as well, in a sense. They haven't, because when you really practice spirituality was supposed to balance the way you think. We don't really, so because a lot of us are not really balanced the way we don't think in a balanced way, a lot of times what ends up happening is we end up kind of being, in a sense, how would I put this? We kind of end up being, I'm gonna look at it from a certain angle. We kind of end up taking spiritual information, well, in this case, spiritual information, but really health. So let's say health, and looking at it from an unbalanced way. So we end up, arguing about broccoli, we turn health into thinking that we're gonna get superpowers from eating food, right? So it's like we can't just be like, eat more fruits and vegetables, make sure and drink a lot more water, eat a lot more fiber, stay away from processed foods. The most important thing, stay the hell away from processed foods, right? We got to get into senseless debates, right? A person can say, oh, like for me, I would say, if you're going to eat meat, eat in the colder months, right? Eat meat in the colder months, fall and winter, but really go into the end of fall, go into the winter time. That's like 4.5 months a year. So 7.5 months a year, you're not eating meat. You're going to have some asshole who say, you're advocating eating meat. So we argue about stuff that, like, but if you told a regular person, hey, I don't eat meat for 8.5 months, they'll say, you practically vegetarian. But we have to get so extreme, we can't even think like that anymore. So health takes a beating, because there is some truth to the fact that in spirituality, you want to make yourself healthy as you can, because you don't want your body affecting your spirit work, right? Unfortunately, a lot of people who claim to be healthy, you see them skinny, depressed, they're not healthy. Right? And most importantly, kind of die at the same time regular people do. Let's be honest. Yeah, if you're eating really bad at McDonald's every day, you're probably going to die much earlier. But I can't say that following some of these so-called people, you live that much longer, to be honest, right? Especially when we were coming from the time when, if you really want to get spiritual, we're not talking about materialists. People used to live a lot longer in times of myth. So obviously something's going wrong, right? And just eating the traditional, holistic way is kind of still limited. If you have an argument about certain things, you're still limited when it comes to it, because in the end of the day, it's really just about balance. And balance is not an easy thing when you're extreme. But now when you see, especially living in America, the poor quality of the American food supply, then when you add the created economy, so a lot of you guys are probably working more, I am myself, working more, right? Working more hours and stuff. You add that up, stress and bad food. Yeah, I mean, your spirituality is going to suffer. So then that's why most people say, I don't got no time for spirituality. I've been on YouTube since 2008, probably kicking spirituality since 2010. I know I take long breaks from YouTube. Sometimes I take a whole year off, right? But I've been, this is my 14 years. And like, yeah, the average person now who I would have met in 2012 or 13, half of them ain't even spiritual no more. Because their physical life has overwhelmed them so much. Their body is so packed with stress, they can't really achieve no spiritual work. And it's only going to get worse. It's not going to get better. The class warfare that we're about to go into is going to be brutal. And it's going to be brutal because the average person doesn't even know that there's class warfare going on. But I do think when you're a spiritualist, you're supposed to be more aware. So 2 things you should do: work on that spiritual defense. Start eating properly balanced, which matches your lifestyle and your environment, right? You do that, like I said, spiritual defense, start eating properly. Then, of course, when you try to become that guy or that woman who's trying to become as financially independent as you can, or trying to be at least have the ability to be financially flexible, those other 2 areas that I mentioned don't get in the way, because it normally does. And don't ever underestimate the fact that the proper knowledge, like meaning the way you think, there's a lot of spiritual information out there that's put out there to deter you. A lot of people think that advanced spirituality is the big stuff. It's not. If Atlantis existed, if aliens created us, those are questions that a person could have. But those shouldn't be the most important questions on your spiritual journey. I'm sorry, it shouldn't be. Like, that's not going to, like, the Atlantean question, maybe, because if you talk about spiritual evolution, but if you just talk about history and aliens, that's not gonna really affect your spiritual work properly. It's like if I say, which one is more useless? Talk about the Anunnaki and shit, or talking about photonic beings that Christians call angels? Well, photonic beings that Christians call angels because you could look at, it's more flexible title. There could be just mental constructs. There could be just spiritual intelligence on the mental plane. That could be, we're talking about angels now. That could be the future spiritual evolution of humanity. And either way, that's going to be tied into Kabbalah, which I'm going to make a video about, which is to me the greatest spiritual system. Siris King. Till next time, peace.